Hello and welcome. I want to elaborate more about the proposal, the rejection, and not wanting to be married, him taking the proposal back. And I have said that I got in such a deep depression and I found myself in this tunnel again. Um, to me, it was a tunnel of despair, a tunnel hurt, real bad hurt, a tunnel of discouragement, a tunnel of failure, a tunnel of blaming myself that I should have not rushed. I should have said, before I said yes, I should have said, let me just give me a little time. Sometimes we go through things, and sometimes um, we're so in a hurry I was so in a hurry to say that I was healed and delivered that I didn't take time to realize that I wasn't quite ready. Um, when I was in this tunnel, I always talk about a tunnel because when you're going through a tunnel, it's usually very dark in that tunnel. But if you keep looking straight ahead, you'll see a spark of light. And I use a tunnel as an illustration of what I was going through, and it was rough. I was trying to cope and not be a bitter woman. Um, that was a challenge for me to not be bitter, but I kept looking at um, the relationship that I was in when I was abused, um, physically, sexually, mentally, um, everywhere you can think of being abused sexually wise. I look back at that, and then I look at um, being proposed to, and then getting like some men would call it when a woman say no, a dear John letter. Literally, I got a letter, saying I don't want. So it was hard, very hard for me to cope with that, to um, keep from blaming myself. It was very hard because I was um, thinking that will I ever be happy? Because I'm just trying to be loved. I'm just trying to uh, be loved, be cared about, be concerned about. I'm just trying to understand um, what it is that I'm not doing right. What it is that what is it that I've done so horrible, so bad, so I just couldn't understand why I kept getting hurt. I kept getting abused because when someone say they love you and then they write you a letter, that's a type of abuse. Abuse is abuse. Abuse is something that hurts. And what this minister did, it hurt, and it hurt for a long time. Um, I carried depression like it was clothes clothing. I carried it, but you didn't. I wouldn't show it, but I carried it. It was there. Depression was there. I like I said, I wouldn't allow my kids to see because I didn't want them to see any hurt that I was experiencing or anything because I loved them so much and I didn't want them to ever, mainly my girls, I didn't want them to ever, ever. And I didn't want to, and I wasn't ready to talk to my girls or my son and say, look, if this ever happens, don't stay. I wasn't ready to tell them that because they were too young. I wasn't ready to tell them how their father was. I didn't want to put any kind of bad thoughts about their father. Even though what he did to me, I still didn't want them to know that side of him. So I carried that. Even when this minister, when he hurt me, I didn't talk bad about him to my children. I always was the type of person that no matter how bad you hurt me, I did not want to damage your name, an individual's name. I didn't want to speak anything bad about whoever hurt me out loud around my children, around anybody. I didn't want, and I kept wearing a cover up. I kept wearing a fake mask because I didn't want no one to question me, or I felt that they would um, say I should have known better. I didn't want to hear that. So I kept my feelings tucked away for a long time. And um, I didn't want to have anything to do with men at all. But I didn't want my girls to see that, when we would go around, we would go to church and all that. I didn't want them to see, and I didn't want no one to see because I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to expose that part of me. I wasn't ready to sit down and talk about it because I felt that I wouldn't have been able to talk for crying. So therefore I felt that would be weak. I felt, crying, I felt that would just be weak and, wanting to tell. This is how I felt. I'm not saying, everybody feels the same way, but this is how I felt. I felt that if I explained myself or if I told what I went through, that would make, people look at me, in a very different way. That would make, a person look at me you know, like I was a germ. That's how I felt. Um, I felt like I didn't want no one to know what was on the inside of me. That's why when this minister called this, he didn't want to marry me. I didn't want no one to know the truth because I felt I got back in that boat. I was out there in that boat, in that water with no paddles again. And if I would tell them the truth about what happened with the minister, then I would have to tell what happened with my kid's father. I never wanted to make them look bad, even though deep down inside, I was so sad, I was so miserable, I was so depressed. And but I kept it hidden. I kept it hidden because I didn't want them to look bad. I never understood that. I never understood that here it was that my girl's father, my kid's father was beating me like my son wasn't born yet. He was hurting me sexually, physically, mentally. I was being hurt. But I didn't want, I guess you could say, I didn't want no one to experience that type of hurt because I know how I was feeling. I know what I was going through, and I didn't want no one else to go through and feel that, because that's something that type of hurt is something that you wouldn't wish on even your. I didn't wish it on my worst enemy. I didn't want no one to know the darkness that was inside of me, the miserable, that little girl that was on the inside of me that was so hurt, so sad, so miserable, so frustrated, so stressful. I didn't want that individual to have been known, so I kept it to myself for a long time. And usually that's what happens when you are abused. You keep it. You don't want, because you're so ashamed, because you're blaming yourself. You say, well, why? Why did I, that was my constant thing. I asked myself, but why? And I could never get an answer. Like I said, well, I should have known better. But sometimes when you think that you're in love, um, you don't look at it like that. You don't look at, if you're being abused, you don't look at it as being abused, because you've been abused so much and so often that it has become part of your life. It is an outfit that you wear, and you are hating it, but in the same time you don't want to say anything about it, because you are feeling, I don't know the exact words you use, but you're feeling like a nothing, a nobody. Like in my when I was little, when I was a little girl, um, I had a skin problem, and it covered my entire body. They called it atopic dermatitis, and I went through. Oh my God, I went through so much in school as well as at home. I was bullied at school. I was made fun of. Nobody wanted to be around me because of the way I looked. I was scratched a lot because it was rash and an itch. And one time the teacher put calamine lotion on me, and I looked like a clown. And my mother got upset about that. And I went through life accepting the name calling. Um, they called me all types of names. Black Bear, Bumpy, Ashy, Ghost. They didn't want to be near me. They thought they would catch it. They would say, "Ooh, you look nasty. You look horrible. You look like ooh." I went through that elementary. All through elementary, I was made fun of. I didn't have that many friends, and then when I did have friends, they wanted to feel sorry for me, and I didn't need that. I didn't need you to feel sorry for me. I need you to understand. And so I didn't have too many friends. Um, and I didn't have a boyfriend because of the way my skin looked. Um, so I guess, with me being, had that problem, being bullied when I was little, being called all kind of names and being talked about. Um, I guess that became my lifestyle, and I knew it was going to happen. I knew that I was going to be talked about when I went to school. I knew I was going to be made fun of, so I accepted it. I said, "Oh well, I know it's going to happen. Here it comes. I know what they're going to say." So I accepted it, and after a while, I didn't care. I start calling myself, yeah, ugly. Get up and say, "Ooh, ugly." I talked about myself, so it became my outfit from when I was in elementary. But as the years went by, my skin cleared up. But my spirit, myself, the inner me never cleared up. It was still hurting. And so I guess you could say that's why I allowed the abuse that I went through with both men, because it was something that, um, if it happened, yeah, I would cry. I would get upset. I would, talk about myself. I would get depressed. It became a lifestyle with me. So, it's like I said, it started not sexual abuse or anything like that, but the name calling, the being made fun of started early. And I took on that role, and I kept that role. And I guess that, when I started going with this man, he never mentioned anything, about my skin. It wasn't bad as it was. Every now and then my skin would flare up, but I never heard him say anything about, "Ooh, your skin look horrible," or anything like that. So I felt comfortable. I felt okay. Everything's okay. Okay, you know. Um, I felt, that love was, to me, love was, I love you, but I'm going to hurt you, but I know you'll understand. I know that doesn't make any sense, and I know you probably say, "Well, that's kind of weird talking." But if you never been abused, then yeah, it would sound weird to you. But um, when he didn't talk about my skin, that hurt was still within me. It was still there, but I covered it up. Like it became a root, and I let it grow, but I never spoke about it. I kept it deep down inside. So, um, as when I got in this relationship, and I was with my kid's father for 11 years, and I would have to say, out of the 11 years, 9 of the years, the first 2 years, um, they were okay. There wasn't a lot of, abuse. There wasn't a lot of, hitting or name calling, or hitting or anything like that. It was gradually over periods of time until, I learned to accept the bitter. I learned to accept the good with the bad and say it was okay. He didn't mean it. And then as the years went on, I got tired. And then, when I started going with this minister, I thought, you know, all was good, and it wasn't, because I hadn't yet really, really talked about the abuse, the sexual abuse that I had with my girls. So that was something that stayed with me, and it took a long time. And that's why I'm able to talk about it now. That's why I'm doing a podcast telling of my journey, um, what I went through, to help another single woman who's been in an abusive relationship, to let her know that I know. I know how it hurts. I know what you think. I know how you feel. So that's my main goal through these podcasts, these episodes, live streaming, is because I'm reaching out, because I know there's a young lady out there is being abused. I know it is. I know it's happened, or it had been, or it's out, but still is hurting. And I want to reach out and say, I understand. I know. So, like I always say, you can reach me at bmsdiva@gmail.com. If you want to have an interview, just, send me an email. You can watch my live streaming. I do live streaming sometimes, and then sometimes on my podcast. But I'm reaching out. I'm here for single women everywhere, everywhere, all over. I want to be that individual, that woman that can help bring you out. And remember, like I always say, the Lord loves you, and so do I. And believe you me, I know I'm going to help somebody by when you listen to my testimony, my journey. So have a blessed day and always remember God loves you and so do I. Have a great day. Thank you for listening.